Children are exposed to lots of positive and negative content since the advent of social media. Reading culture is fast eroding among pupils thanks to more time they now spend on social media. In this report, Abubakar Abdullahi speaks to some parents in Lafia on how they cope with the influence of social media on their kids.
Social media exists with a lot of information that can expose and change the behavior of children from positive to negative and vice versa if proper monitoring is not given by the parent. Hence the need for the parents to know what their children are doing using the social media by monitoring their activities. This parent says at particular age, kids should be allowed to use social media.
Generally, when you look at the impact of this internet on the young generation, I think the best time to allow children into it is when they are maybe in their secondary school, at least at the age of 15. At that age, there should be all kinds of maturity, knowledge. They should know what is good and bad. They must have been groomed enough from the family to know what is good and bad. The reason why we have to peg it at that age is because, the effect of the internet on this young generation is disastrous. So there is a need for maturity.
Modernization has come in with internet facilities. But to allow a child to get access to internet facility, at least the child should be by 12 years, depending on, that is from primary to secondary school age. If a child attends secondary school age, it's possible we should allow the child to have access to internet, because that is where most of the information are stored. Because in these days now, we don't make use of books. Books are no longer in usage. Most of the textbooks available and children are not ready to read, so they prefer to go into internet. So when it is 12 years, I think it is advisable to allow a child to go there, but you should monitor that child strictly.
The parents maintain that their access to social media will also have an impact, particularly on their academic performance.
But what is there is that if you are now allow a child to have access to all these facilities, it affects the child's education-wise, positively or negatively. But in the positive aspect, you see that the child that is concentrated on issues that are being taught in the class and they wanted to learn will perform better than a child that does not even have access to it. On the other hand, if you allow a child to go into that, they go to different pages which are not normal. They expose them to all these social ills. At the end of the day, you discover that most children now, they become very wayward.
In the right direction. Internet is very good, and we should expose the children to have access to certain sites in the internet. But for me, what I do for my own children is that you make them understand the negative impacts of visiting certain sites in the internet. They can use the internet to do their work, they can use the internet to do their researches and other things.
A psychologist gave an overview on the usage of social media by kids.
There are wonderful things about social media. There are wonderful things you learn. Some of them have learned wonderful things. Some of them they are bloggers. These kids of 15 years, of 10 years. So I think the world has to do with the guidance. Parents, guide, supervise. Don't just drop the phone and go away. It can be 10, it can be 15, it can be depending on the time available. Guide them, be with them. In fact, you'll be surprised that as you are with them, you are learning more things, because they are actually more explorative than us. So for me, for social media, it has actually terrible sides, because you just allow them without supervising them. You'll be surprised some of the sites they go. And you'll be sitting in your house, you think you know the child, you don't really know anything about the child. Because what the child knows, you will shock the day you know. That's what I'm saying. The effect can be positive or negative, depending on the training. If a parent, if the trainer make the child understand and inculcate that this phone is for me to research and transform myself positively, the child will go that way with supervision.
The role of parents on monitoring the activities of their kids on social media will go a long way in not only shaping them, but also correct the negative tendency in the society. Abubakar Abdullahi, Trust TV News, Lafia.